Mystic Masonry by J.D. Buck is an essential exploration of the profound esoteric principles that underlie the craft, drawing direct connections between modern Freemasonry and the ancient mysteries. Buck delves into the rich symbolism, rituals, and secret doctrine, presenting Freemasonry not merely as a system of ethical instruction, but as a spiritual path leading toward enlightenment and self-mastery. For the Mason seeking deeper knowledge, this work reveals the septenary nature of man, the unity of science and religion, and the significance of the Great Lodge, offering tools for both personal transformation and the uplift of humanity. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's presentation From the Quarries, an archive of Masonic lore. Chapter 1, Principles of Education and Ethics. The struggle for existence dominates modern life, leaving humanity blind to its true purpose and potential. While the human brain has evolved with ever-increasing capacity for higher thought, most of its energy is consumed by the basic demands of survival. Intellectual and spiritual evolution are neglected, and human beings are left ignorant of their latent powers. Mere intellectual activity alone cannot explain the higher faculties of man. The development of the soul remains unapprehended by a civilization focused on competition and material gain. Present-day society suffers under two great evils: selfishness and false ideals. The solution lies in the recognition of the brotherhood of man, not merely as a religious or sentimental theory, but as an immutable law of nature. All human misery is born of the sin of separateness, the belief that one can act solely in self-interest without consequence to others. The selfish pursuit of wealth and power has entrenched economic inequality, creating systems of competition that encourage strife rather than unity. True progress can only be made when humanity turns to a higher understanding, seeking not individual gain, but collective advancement. Education, as it currently exists, compounds this problem by fostering competition from an early age. Children are taught to surpass their peers, not to cooperate with them. Knowledge is valued for its utility in securing material success, rather than for its capacity to uplift the soul. This limited view of education stifles the natural perceptions of the child and prevents the development of higher faculties. As long as this model prevails, humanity will remain trapped in ignorance, unable to realize the deeper truths of its existence. At the same time, the modern age boasts of its scientific achievements, yet science alone cannot lead to the knowledge humanity truly needs. While physical science has given humanity unprecedented control over nature, it has not revealed the purpose of life. The doctrine of survival of the fittest is a distorted application of scientific principles, used to justify competition and selfishness. True knowledge must transcend mere physical understanding. It must unite science and religion, material progress and spiritual evolution. Efforts to reform society through charity and philanthropy, though commendable, often fail to address the root causes of suffering. These endeavours treat only the symptoms of a deeper malaise. True reform must begin with knowledge of the soul, of the laws governing human evolution, and of the higher ideals towards which humanity should strive. It is through the pursuit of such knowledge and the service of truth that mankind can be liberated from its present misery. The wisdom required for this higher knowledge has not been lost, but preserved through the ancient mysteries and the teachings of Freemasonry. This wisdom teaches the unity of all humanity and the path to personal and collective enlightenment. Progress, however, cannot be forced or hurried. Centuries of ignorance have entrenched harmful systems, and only through steady, conscientious effort can these be overturned. Humanity must labour to recover the lost knowledge of its true nature and destiny. Only then can it build a just society founded on the principles of universal brotherhood and ethical living. While the task is monumental, there is hope. Humanitarian efforts, even when incomplete or misguided, reflect an innate recognition of the need for change. The future offers an opportunity for the elevation of human consciousness, if mankind will embrace the ideals of the mysteries and the true purpose of life. The time is ripe for the awakening of the soul, for the realization that humanity is not yet what it could be. With the right ideals, the right education, and the right knowledge, the human race can overcome its present limitations and fulfill its higher destiny. Chapter 2: The Genius of Freemasonry. Freemasonry, far from being merely a social or charitable institution, holds within it a profound and ancient wisdom. Its essence is not confined to ritual and form, but speaks to the deeper truths of human existence. At its core, Freemasonry is the embodiment of a sublime philosophy, one that strives for the elevation of mankind through the cultivation of moral virtue and spiritual knowledge. The modern world, absorbed in material pursuits, has largely forgotten the greater purpose that Freemasonry embodies. The ethical teachings, symbols, and rituals of the lodge are but outward signs of an inner, concealed wisdom, one that traces its lineage to the ancient mysteries. These mysteries once guarded the temples of Egypt, Greece, and Persia, preserved the sacred knowledge of the soul's immortality and the divine origin of humanity. Freemasonry continues this tradition, albeit veiled in allegory and symbolism. The genius of Freemasonry lies in its capacity to awaken the inner potential of the individual. It is through the gradual unveiling of truth that the Mason is led toward enlightenment. Each degree, each symbol, serves as a step on the path to self-knowledge, guiding the seeker to recognize the divine spark within himself. The true master is not merely a craftsman of stone, but a builder of character, one who constructs the temple of his own soul in accordance with the divine plan. Central to this philosophy is the principle of brotherhood. The lodge exemplifies the ideal of unity, where distinctions of wealth, rank, and creed are set aside in favour of mutual respect and support. Freemasonry teaches that all men are connected through a shared divine heritage, and it is the duty of each Mason to labour for the welfare of all. This principle is not a mere abstract ideal. It is a practical and a moral imperative, one that calls for the active cultivation of charity, justice, and benevolence. The symbols and allegories of Freemasonry may serve as the keys to understanding its deeper meaning. The uninitiated may view them as mere decoration, but the discerning student recognizes in them a profound philosophy. The Masonic tools, the compass, the square, the plumb, are not just implements of the builder's trade, but moral lessons in themselves, teaching the virtues of moderation, justice, and uprightness. The temple, too, is not just the physical structure of stone, but a metaphor for the soul, which must be shaped and perfected through the labour of life. Freemasonry, therefore, is not a static institution, nor is it confined to any particular time or place. It is a living tradition, rooted in the eternal truths of human nature and the cosmos. Its mission is to guide humanity towards a fuller realization of its divine potential, to uplift and ennoble the individual, and, through him, to contribute to the betterment of society. Yet this higher knowledge is not conferred automatically upon any who enter the lodge. It is the reward of diligent study, moral refinement, and personal devotion. The secrets of Masonry are not to be found in the formal rituals alone, but in the heart and mind of the sincere seeker, who strives for self-mastery and enlightenment. True initiation is an inward process, a transformation of the soul, whereby the individual becomes attuned to the divine laws governing existence. Chapter 3. The Genius of Freemasonry continued. Freemasonry's genius resides not only in its rich symbolism and ethical precepts, but also in its role as a vehicle for the transmission of ancient spiritual truths. It continues the work of the great mystery schools of the past, preserving and disseminating the teachings necessary for human enlightenment. Yet the full depth of these teachings is often overlooked by those who see Freemasonry as merely a social or charitable organization. The true genius of Freemasonry lies in its capacity to guide the individual towards the realization of higher spiritual realities. The wisdom of the ancients, embodied in the rites and symbols of the lodge, reveals the essential unity of all things and the divine nature of man. Freemasonry teaches that man is not simply a material being, but a spiritual entity capable of profound moral and intellectual development. The journey of the Mason is, therefore, not merely an outward journey through the degrees of the lodge, but an inward journey towards self-mastery and enlightenment. The ethical framework of Freemasonry is grounded in universal principles, which transcends any single culture or religion. The virtues of temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice, which the Mason is encouraged to cultivate, are not arbitrary rules of conduct, but reflections of the natural laws that govern the universe. By aligning himself with these laws, the Mason brings his own life into harmony with the greater cosmic order. At the heart of Masonic philosophy is the belief in the perfectibility of man. Freemasonry teaches that, through diligent effort and moral discipline, the individual can rise above the limitations of the material world and achieve a higher state of consciousness. This process of spiritual evolution is mirrored in the allegory of the Temple of Solomon, which represents the soul of man. The building of this temple is symbolic of the work that each Mason must undertake to perfect himself. The symbols of the lodge serve as reminders of this inner work. The square teaches us to square our actions by the principles of morality. The compass reminds us to circumscribe our desires and keep them within due bounds. The level symbolizes equality and justice. Each tool has a deeper meaning, pointing to the spiritual labor that the Mason must undertake if he is to fully realize his full potential. This labor is not performed in isolation, but in the company of fellow Masons, who support one another in the pursuit of knowledge and virtue. The lodge represents a microcosm of the universal brotherhood of man, where individuals from all walks of life come together in pursuit of a common goal. Freemasonry thus embodies a practical vision of human fraternity, one that transcends social, religious, and national boundaries. Freemasonry also imparts the understanding that the true secrets of the lodge are not external but internal. The rituals and ceremonies, though rich in symbolic meaning, are but outward expressions of a deeper spiritual reality. The real secrets of Freemasonry are to be found within the heart and the mind of each Mason, as he contemplates the mysteries of existence and strives to align himself with the divine will. The progress of the Mason is, therefore, measured not by the degrees he has attained, but by the depth of his understanding and the extent of his personal transformation. True initiation is not conferred by ritual alone. It is the result of an ongoing process of spiritual refinement, in which the individual learns to master his lower nature and cultivate his higher faculties. This process leads, ultimately, to the realization of man's divine origin and destiny. Freemasonry, in its highest sense, is a school of spiritual and moral development. It seeks to uplift not only its members, but all of humanity, by promoting the ideals of justice, charity, and truth. It offers a pathway to both personal enlightenment and the advancement of the human race, based on the recognition of our shared divine heritage and the potential for spiritual growth. Thus, the genius of Freemasonry lies in its ability to preserve and transmit the external truths of the mysteries, while adapting them to the needs of each generation. Through its symbols, rituals, and teachings, it continues to provide a roadmap for those who seek to discover the hidden mysteries of nature and science, and to align themselves with the divine plan for human evolution. Chapter 4. The Secret Doctrine. The Secret Doctrine lies at the heart of Freemasonry, encapsulating the profound metaphysical truths that were once carefully guarded within the ancient mysteries. This hidden knowledge, which concerns the nature of man, the universe, and the divine, has been passed down through the ages, veiled in allegory and symbol. Freemasonry, as a custodian of this ancient wisdom, continues the work of these mysteries by preserving and imparting the principles of the Secret Doctrine to those who are prepared to receive them. At its core, the Secret Doctrine teaches the unity of all existence. The visible world of matter is but a reflection of a deeper spiritual reality. The cosmos is governed by divine laws, which are unchanging and eternal, and man, as a microcosm of the universe, contains within himself the same principles that govern the macrocosm. The process of initiation, central to both the ancient mysteries and Freemasonry, is the means by which the individual is gradually brought into harmony with these universal laws. One of the most fundamental teachings of the Secret Doctrine is the concept of the dual nature of man. Man is both material and spiritual, composed of body and soul. The physical body, being subject to decay and death, is temporary, while the soul, a spark of divine, is immortal. The purpose of life, therefore, is to awaken to this higher nature, to rise above the limitations of the flesh, and to fulfill the soul's divine potential. The ancient sages understood that the path to spiritual enlightenment is not an easy one. It requires the aspirant to pass through trials and challenges, to overcome the lower, selfish impulses, and to cultivate virtues that align him with the divine order. This is the work of the initiate, who, through knowledge and discipline, becomes a master of his own nature. The degrees of Freemasonry mirror this inner journey, guiding the Mason step by step towards a greater understanding and self-mastery. The Secret Doctrine also reveals the principle of cycles, which governs the evolution of both the universe and man. All things move in cycles, from birth to death, and from death to rebirth. This law of periodicity ensures that nothing in the cosmos is ever lost or destroyed. Rather, all things are in a state of continual transformation. Man, too, undergoes this cyclical process, not only in the physical sense, but also in the spiritual. The soul, through successive incarnations, grows and evolves, striving towards perfection. The ancient mysteries preserved this knowledge in symbolic form, often concealing the deeper meanings from the uninitiated. Freemasonry, as the modern successor, continues this tradition. Its rituals and symbols, though seemingly simple, contain within them the keys to unlocking the profound truths of the Secret Doctrine. The Mason who diligently studies these symbols, and who seeks to understand their hidden meanings, is gradually led to the realization of the unity of all things, and his own place within the divine plan. The Secret Doctrine does not belong to any single religion or tradition. It transcends the dogmas of sectarian belief, offering a universal philosophy that speaks to the deepest truths of existence. Freemasonry, by its very nature, is open to all who seek light, regardless of their religious or cultural background. Its teachings are universal, rooted in the recognition that all human beings are part of the same divine whole and are subject to the same spiritual laws. Ultimately, the purpose of the Secret Doctrine is to provide a framework for the individual's spiritual evolution. It offers the knowledge and guidance necessary to transcend the illusions of the material world and to realize the divine within. Freemasonry, through its symbols and rituals, acts as a guide on this journey, pointing the way to the deeper truths that lie behind the veil of physical existence. Chapter 5. The Secret Doctrine, Science and Religion. The Secret Doctrine bridges the often perceived chasm between science and religion, offering a unified understanding of the universe that reconciles these two traditionally opposing fields. Both science and religion, in their highest forms, are paths to truth, though they approach it from different perspectives. The Secret Doctrine reveals that these paths ultimately converge, as both explore the same universal laws and principles that govern existence. Religion, in its esoteric form, seeks to explain the purpose of life and the divine origin of the soul. The outer forms of religion, the rituals, doctrines, and ceremonies, are intended to convey deeper spiritual truths. But, over time, these forms often become dogmatic, obscuring the original meaning. Science, on the other hand, concerns itself with the material world, seeking to understand the laws of nature through observation and experimentation. Modern science, while advancing human knowledge of the physical world, often dismisses the spiritual dimension of existence, viewing the universe as a mechanical system devoid of inherent meaning. The Secret Doctrine, however, asserts that the universe is a living, conscious entity governed by divine intelligence. Both the spiritual and the material realms are expressions of this intelligence, and the laws that govern them are identical. What science describes as the laws of nature are, in fact, the manifestations of a higher spiritual order. The ancient sages, through their understanding of the Secret Doctrine, recognized this unity and sought to integrate science and religion into a cohesive system of knowledge. At the heart of the reconciliation between science and religion is the principle of evolution. Evolution, as understood in the esoteric tradition, is not limited to the physical development of species, as modern science would have it, but extends to the spiritual evolution of the soul. All things in the universe, from the smallest atom to the highest spiritual beings, are in a state of constant growth and transformation, moving towards greater complexity and higher consciousness. This process of evolution is cyclical, governed by the universal laws of periodicity. Religion, when properly understood, teaches the same principles. The soul, through successive incarnations, evolves towards perfection, gradually shedding the limitations of the material world and realizing its divine nature. The rituals and symbols of religion, particularly in the ancient mysteries, were designed to guide the initiate through this process of spiritual evolution, mirroring the larger cosmic cycle. Freemasonry, as the heir to these mysteries, continues to impart this knowledge through its symbols and degrees, offering a path for the individual to follow in his own evolutionary journey. The modern conflict between science and religion arises from a misunderstanding of the true nature of each. Religion, when reduced to rigid dogma, loses its connection to the deeper truths it once conveyed. Science, when it denies the existence of anything beyond the material world, becomes a narrow and incomplete system of knowledge. The Secret Doctrine reveals that both science and religion, when fully understood, are complementary, not contradictory. They are two sides of the same coin, each offering a different perspective on the same underlying reality. The pursuit of knowledge, whether through science or religion, must be guided by the recognition that truth is one. The apparent divisions between the spiritual and material, the divine and the natural, are illusions born of limited perception. The task of the initiate is to pierce through these illusions and recognize the unity that underlies all existence. This is the true meaning of initiation, the awakening to the realization that all things are interconnected, that the laws governing the physical universe are the same as those that govern the spiritual realm. Freemasonry, through its teachings and symbols, provides a framework for this understanding. The Masonic tools, the square, the compass, the level, are not merely physical instruments, but representations of the universal laws that govern both the material and the spiritual worlds. The Mason, in his work of self-improvement, is aligning himself with these laws, bringing his own nature into harmony with the greater cosmic order. Chapter 6. The Secret Doctrine, the Septenary Nature of Man. The Secret Doctrine reveals that man, like the universe, is composed of 7 distinct but interconnected layers or principles. This septenary nature of man reflects the same laws and structures that govern the cosmos, embodying the principle of as above, so below. Just as the universe operates on multiple levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, so too does the individual human being. Freemasonry, drawing from the ancient mysteries, preserves this understanding in its teachings and symbols, guiding the Mason towards a fuller realization of his own nature. Man's sevenfold nature consists of 3 higher, spiritual principles and 4 lower, material ones. These principles represent the various aspects of human existence, from the physical body to the immortal soul. The lower principles, physical body, life force or prana, astral body and desires or karma, are concerned with the material world and the forces that govern physical and emotional experience. These lower aspects are transient, bound by the laws of the material plane, and perish with the death of the body. Above these stand the 3 higher principles, which correspond to the true, immortal nature of man: the higher mind, manas, the spiritual soul, buddhi, and the divine spirit, atman. These higher principles are eternal and unchanging, representing man's true self, his divine essence. The purpose of life, according to the Secret Doctrine, is for the lower nature to be purified and aligned with the higher, leading to the awakening of the soul and the ultimate union with the divine. Freemasonry, in its symbolic teachings, alludes to this septenary structure through the tools and symbols of the craft. The process of spiritual evolution, of building the inner temple, is a process of mastering the lower nature and raising the consciousness to the higher planes. Each degree of Masonry represents a step in this journey, where the Mason learns to subdue his base desires and cultivate the virtues that reflect the higher principles. The allegory of the Temple of Solomon, which the Mason is tasked with building, is a metaphor for this inner work of self-mastery. The key to understanding the septenary nature lies in the concept of duality. Man is both material and spiritual, a combination of transient and eternal principles. The physical body and the desires associated with it are not evil, but they must be brought under the control of the higher self. The higher mind, manas, when aligned with the spiritual soul, buddhi, becomes the guiding force that directs man's actions in accordance with divine law. It is through the higher mind that the Mason connects with the universal intelligence, gaining the wisdom necessary to complete the great work. The process of spiritual evolution is not a linear one, but cyclical, governed by the laws of periodicity. Each life represents a phase in this cycle, where the soul undergoes experiences that lead to growth and development. The trials and challenges of life are necessary for the purification of the lower nature and the awakening of the higher self. This is the essence of initiation, the transformation of the individual through knowledge, discipline, and experience. The ancient sages understood that the septenary structures of man mirrored the structure of the universe itself. Just as man is composed of 7 principles, so too is the cosmos, with each plane of existence corresponding to one of these principles. The physical world is but the lowest of these planes, and beyond it lie higher, more subtle realms, accessible only to those who have awakened their higher faculties. The Mason, through his symbolic journey, learns to navigate these planes, gradually ascending from the material to the spiritual. Freemasonry, as the inheritor of the ancient wisdom, teaches that true enlightenment comes from understanding and aligning oneself with this septenary structure. The symbols of the craft, the compass, square, plumb line, serve as reminders of the work that must be done to harmonize the lower and higher aspects of man. The process is one of continual refinement, where the rough ashlar of the self is gradually shaped into the perfect stone, fit for the temple of the Lord. Chapter 7. The Secret Doctrine, the Sign of the Master. The Sign of the Master represents one of the most profound symbols in Freemasonry, signifying the realization of spiritual mastery and the attainment of higher knowledge. This sign, derived from the ancient mysteries, is more than an outward gesture. It is a manifestation of the inner transformation that occurs when the Mason unites with the higher aspects of his being. It symbolizes the culmination of the spiritual journey, the point at which the initiate transcends the material world and becomes attuned to the divine wisdom that governs the universe. The Master's journey is one of self-conquest and enlightenment. Throughout the degrees of Masonry, the initiate learns to subdue his lower nature, purifying his desires and aligning his will with the divine. The sign of the Master is not merely a reward or recognition, but a state of being that reflects the mastery of the self. It is the embodiment of what the ancient sages called the great work, the process of perfecting the soul through knowledge, discipline, and moral action. The symbol itself holds multiple layers of meaning. On one level, it represents the victory over death, not merely physical death, but the death of ignorance and selfishness. The initiate, through his journey, has learned to see beyond the illusions of the material world, understanding that life and death are part of a larger cosmic cycle. He realizes the immortality of the soul and its continuous evolution through successive incarnations. Thus, the sign of the Master is a recognition of the soul's triumph over the limitations of the physical plane. On a deeper level, the sign of the Master represents the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the material and spiritual, the human and the divine. The initiate, having passed through the trials of life, has brought into harmony the lower and higher aspects of his nature. He has mastered the passions and desires that bind him to the physical world and awakened the higher faculties of mind and spirit. This union of opposites is the essence of true initiation, and it is reflected in the symbolic tools of Freemasonry, which teach balance, moderation, and moral uprightness. The sign of the Master also points to the concept of at-one-ment, the state of unity with the divine. It is through this state of at-one-ment that the Master attains true wisdom, for he becomes a vessel through which divine truth flows. His actions, thoughts, and desires are no longer driven by ego or selfish motives, but are guided by the higher mind, which is aligned with the universal laws. This state of being is the goal of all spiritual traditions, and in Freemasonry, it is symbolized by the Master's role as the builder of the temple, a temple not made of stone, but of virtue and wisdom. Freemasonry, through its rituals and symbols, offers the initiate a roadmap to this mastery. The degrees are designed to lead the individual through successive stages of spiritual awakening, each one revealing deeper truths about the self and the universe. The tools of the craft, the square, the compass, the trowel, are not just physical objects, but metaphors for the moral and intellectual work that the Mason must undertake to reach the level of the Master. The Lodge, as a microcosm of the universe, becomes the place where this work is carried out, and where the initiate learns to shape his life in accordance with the divine plan. The true Master is one who has realized his connection to the greater whole, who understands that his actions affect not just himself, but all of humanity. The sign of the Master is thus a call to service, for with mastery comes responsibility. The Master is not only tasked with perfecting himself, but also with uplifting others, helping them to realize their own potential and guiding them on the path of spiritual evolution. This is the ultimate purpose of Freemasonry, to create a brotherhood of enlightened individuals who work together for the betterment of all. In the ancient mysteries, initiation into the higher degrees was reserved for those who had demonstrated both moral integrity and intellectual understanding. Freemasonry continues this tradition, recognizing that true mastery can only be attained by those who have proven themselves worthy through their thoughts, words, and deeds. The sign of the Master is thus both an achievement and a charge, symbolizing the initiate's readiness to assume the responsibilities of spiritual leadership. Chapter 8. The Great Lodge. The Great Lodge is the symbolic representation of the spiritual fraternity that transcends time, space, and human distinctions. It is not merely the physical gathering of Masons in lodges around the world, but is, in essence, the universal brotherhood of enlightened souls, both visible and invisible, who labor towards the same divine purpose. This spiritual lodge operates on a higher plane of existence, uniting those who have attained a higher understanding of the divine truths governing the universe and human evolution. The Great Lodge, unlike the local or grand lodges of Masonry, is not limited by geography or culture. It is universal and eternal, embracing all who seek truth, regardless of creed or nationality. Its members include not only living initiates, but also the masters, sages, and prophets of antiquity, whose wisdom and teachings have guided humanity through the ages. These great teachers from ancient Egypt, Greece, India, and beyond belong to the Great Lodge, and their knowledge is preserved in the symbolism of Freemasonry. The concept of the Great Lodge extends beyond the organizational structure of Freemasonry and points to a deeper spiritual reality. It symbolizes the unity of all things under divine law, the oneness of the cosmos, and the interconnectedness of all souls. Each Mason, through his initiation and progression through the degrees, is being prepared for entrance into this spiritual lodge, where the true mysteries of life and the cosmos are revealed. To enter the Great Lodge is to achieve a profound level of spiritual enlightenment, where the boundaries of individuality dissolve, and one becomes part of the universal brotherhood of souls working for the divine plan. The journey of the Mason through the allegorical building of the temple mirrors the process of spiritual evolution necessary to gain admission to the Great Lodge. The Lodge teaches that the building of Solomon's temple is not merely the construction of a physical edifice, but symbolizes the inner work each person must undertake to perfect his soul. Each tool used in Masonry, every degree passed, is part of this journey of self-purification and alignment with divine law. When the initiate completes his work, symbolized by the finished temple, he becomes fit to join the Great Lodge. Admission into the Great Lodge requires more than ritualistic progression. It demands that the individual embody the principles of Freemasonry: charity, justice, truth, and brotherly love on the deepest level. Only through genuine self-transformation, through living the virtues and overcoming the selfish desires, can one become worthy of the title of Master, and thus gain access to this exalted spiritual fraternity. In this sense, the Great Lodge is an aspirational goal, one that few may achieve in their lifetime, but one towards which every Mason must strive. The teachings of the Great Lodge also emphasize the importance of working for the betterment of all humanity. The Masters of the Great Lodge are not content with personal enlightenment alone. Their labor is directed towards uplifting others and guiding humanity towards a higher state of consciousness. This is the true purpose of the Masonic fraternity on earth, to serve as a vehicle for the transmission of this ancient wisdom and to inspire individuals to work for the common good. Each Mason, by seeking more light, is also charged with spreading that light to others, contributing to the collective evolution of humanity. The Great Lodge also suggests a vision of a future humanity, one united in purpose and understanding. The divisions that currently exist between people, nations, and religions are temporary, born of ignorance and selfishness. The Great Lodge represents the ideal state where all distinctions are erased, and humanity recognizes its common divine origin and destiny. Freemasonry, by promoting the ideals of brotherhood, tolerance, and wisdom, is preparing the way for this future state, a time when the Great Lodge will be manifest on earth. In the ancient mysteries, initiation into the higher degrees was often a solitary journey, taken only by the most worthy individuals. However, the teachings of Freemasonry reflect a more inclusive ideal, where all who seek light and who labor for the good of others are welcome to join the fraternity. The Great Lodge is thus open to all who are willing to dedicate themselves to the great work, and its teachings are available to those who seek them with pure hearts and minds. Chapter 9, An Outline of Symbolism. Symbolism forms the very foundation of Freemasonry, offering a means to convey profound truths that transcend the limitations of language. The symbols of Freemasonry are not arbitrary, but are drawn from the ancient mysteries, where they served as the primary method for transmitting esoteric knowledge. Through the use of symbols, truths that are universal and eternal can be expressed in a way that speaks directly to the soul, allowing the initiate to grasp meanings that might otherwise remain inaccessible to the rational mind. Freemasonry's use of symbolism extends beyond its rituals and degrees, permeating every aspect of the craft. Each symbol is designed to reveal not just a moral lesson, but also a spiritual truth about the nature of man, the universe, and the divine. These symbols, when properly understood, provide the keys to unlocking the hidden mysteries of Freemasonry, offering insight into the ultimate purpose of human existence and the path to spiritual enlightenment. The square and compasses, perhaps the most recognizable symbols of Freemasonry, illustrate the balance between the material and spiritual aspects of life. The square, representing morality and the material world, reminds the Mason to live by the principles of justice and virtue, while the compasses symbolize the higher spiritual nature, guiding the Mason to circumscribe his desires and live within the bounds of moral law. Together, these tools teach the Mason the importance of balance and harmony in both the physical and spiritual realms. The Masonic apron, another important symbol, serves as a reminder of the purity and innocence required for spiritual growth. Worn during rituals, it represents the Mason's dedication to the moral and spiritual work necessary for self-mastery. In this way, the apron is not merely a piece of ceremonial attire, but a symbol of the labor involved in the great work of personal transformation. It reminds the initiate that, like the operative Mason who builds with stone, the speculative Mason must build his own character in alignment with the divine plan. The Temple of Solomon is perhaps the most profound symbol in Freemasonry, representing not only the physical structure, but also the inner temple that each Mason is tasked with building. Just as the ancient temple was constructed according to divine specification, so too must the Mason shape his life and soul in accordance with the higher laws of the universe. The building of the temple is an allegory for the process of spiritual evolution, where the rough ashlar, symbolizing the unrefined self, is gradually transformed into the perfect ashlar, ready to take its place in the spiritual edifice. Other symbols, such as the plum, level, and trowel, serve as reminders of the moral and ethical virtues that must guide the Mason's work. The plum teaches uprightness and rectitude. The level signifies equality and fairness, and the trowel represents the spreading of brotherly love and unity. These tools, while symbolic of operative Masonry, are metaphors for the inner work of refining character and contributing to the building of the great temple of humanity. Freemasonry's use of light as a symbol is particularly significant. Light represents knowledge, truth, and spiritual awakening. The quest for more light is at the heart of Masonic initiation, as each degree is a step towards greater understanding and enlightenment. The initiate's journey from darkness to light is an allegory for the soul's progression from ignorance and materialism to wisdom and spiritual realization. Light, in this sense, is not merely intellectual knowledge, but the inner illumination that comes from direct experience of the divine. The significance of symbolism in Freemasonry cannot be overstated. Symbols are the language of the soul, providing a means for the initiate to access deeper truths that lie beyond the grasp of ordinary perception. Through meditation on these symbols, the Mason is led to an understanding of the hidden mysteries of nature and science, gaining insight into the spiritual laws that govern both the universe and the individual soul. The symbols of Freemasonry, when properly studied, act as gateways to higher consciousness, guiding the initiate towards self-mastery and enlightenment. Yet the true meaning of Masonic symbols cannot be fully grasped through intellectual study alone. It is through personal experience and inner reflection that the initiate comes to understand the deeper significance of the symbols. The symbols act as catalysts for spiritual growth, revealing their secrets only to those who are prepared to receive them. Freemasonry, therefore, does not merely instruct through words, but through the lived experience of symbolism, which leads the initiate to a direct encounter with the divine mysteries. Chapter 10. Conclusion. The ultimate purpose of Freemasonry is to elevate the individual and, through the individual, the whole of humanity. It is far more than a collection of rituals, symbols, and traditions. Freemasonry is a path to enlightenment, rooted in the ancient wisdom of the mysteries, which were designed to guide humanity in its spiritual evolution. The true work of the Mason is the perfection of the soul through knowledge, self-discipline, and the cultivation of virtues that align the individual with the divine laws of the universe. Freemasonry has inherited from the ancient mysteries a profound understanding of the spiritual structure of man and the cosmos. This knowledge, encapsulated in the Secret Doctrine, teaches the unity of all existence and the eternal nature of the soul. The ultimate goal for each individual to recognize and realize their divine nature, achieving harmony with both the material and the spiritual worlds. The journey of the Mason from initiation to mastery mirrors the soul's journey toward perfection. The symbols, tools, and allegories of Freemasonry are not to be understood as mere relics of a bygone era, nor as objects of blind veneration. Rather, they are the keys to unlocking deeper truths about life and the universe. Each degree, each symbol, reveals new layers of meaning, pointing to the higher wisdom that lies at the heart of the craft. These symbols and rituals are designed to awaken the individual's inner faculties, leading to a direct experience of the divine. Freemasonry stands for the principle of brotherhood, which is not simply a moral sentiment, but an expression of the fundamental law of unity that underpins the universe. The brotherhood of man, when truly understood, reveals the interconnectedness of all souls. Freemasonry teaches that through the cultivation of charity, justice, and truth, individuals can contribute to the upliftment of society as a whole. The Lodge is a microcosm of the Great Lodge of the universe, where all distinctions of class, creed, and nationality are erased, and all are united in a shared divine purpose. The work of the Mason does not end with personal enlightenment. Those who attain the light are charged with the responsibility of spreading it to others. The enlightened Mason becomes a teacher and a guide, leading others on a path to self-mastery and spiritual awakening. Freemasonry's mission is to contribute to the collective evolution of humanity by inspiring individuals to recognize their higher nature and live in accordance with the divine will. While the ancient wisdom of Freemasonry remains timeless, its teachings are particularly relevant in the modern world, where materialism and selfishness dominate. The world is in need of the spiritual knowledge that Freemasonry offers. Knowledge that teaches the individual how to rise above the limitations of the material world and contribute to the greater good. Freemasonry's principles of brotherhood, charity, and moral rectitude offer a remedy to the challenges of the present age, pointing the way to a future where humanity lives in harmony with both nature and the divine. Freemasonry thus calls upon its members to take up the work of building the inner temple, not for personal gain alone, but for the betterment of all mankind. The teachings of Freemasonry provide the tools necessary for this great work, offering the individual a roadmap to spiritual evolution and a means to participate in the divine plan for humanity's progress. The journey is not an easy one, but the rewards, both for the individual and for society, are immeasurable. For a deep dive into the history, philosophy, and traditions of Freemasonry, subscribe to From the Quarries. You will find hundreds of lectures, presentations, shorts, and other Masonic works written by Freemasons for Freemasons. Visit FromTheQuarries.com or YouTube at From the Quarries.